3X Lex back in the building. Back one time for the one time. All right, guys. I'm here today. Time for something different. A slight change of plans. Look, I'm here today to give you a quick early impression breakdown of the Super Console X Pro. Now, I just got this in yesterday and I spent some time with it. And I got some interesting thoughts on this as an emulation device. Coming from a guy that's been working with emulation devices for years now, this is a very interesting proposition, especially for what this machine goes for. It's essentially an Android-based small bore computer, and it comes with an image, a 256 gigabyte image, which is claims to have 117,000 games. So that's very interesting, very interesting. I've had a chance to go through this in the last day or so. Actually, to tell a little bit more about the device, yeah, it's a single board computer, Android based. It doesn't have any onboard cooling. It's passively cooled, but I have a fix for that. And I don't have too many concerns about the cooling. I run all of my PCs and devices on cooling pads, notebook cooling pads. So temperature-wise, I don't have any issues. So that's not an issue of mine. But back to the device, it comes with two of these controllers here, which are pretty much, there's two wireless controllers. They look like PS2 controllers. They're about 7/8 scale. They're close in size. They feel okay. The controls are decent. They're not bad. You get two of them with it, which is cool. It's also plug and play for a lot of USB devices. It works great with the trusty Logitech controllers, which I use for all my PCs and everything. It works great with those. I have it hooked up to a lot of other devices, and so far it's worked with everything, even the standalone arcade sticks. So that's a good thing. Interesting device. Very interesting device. Oh yeah, you get a USB, small 4-port USB hub. It comes with a remote also too, which allows you to power it off and on. It has its own dedicated rear power switch too that has to be toggled on. What else does this thing come with? I think that's it. Yeah, you get an HDMI cable also. That said, it also connects to the internet, so you can connect wirelessly, and it has a LAN port also, so you can accept updates and everything. It runs Emulate, which isn't all too different from Batocera, but it's of course RetroArch, and it has an Emulate front end. To give you a good breakdown of what's going on with this machine, it's interesting. I'll say this. It isn't actually 117,000 games. There's a lot of games on it. There are a ton, and I mean a ton, of duplicates. Just duplicates. I'll give you a quick example. Go down to Street Fighter. Like, if you look, let me get this thing a little bit closer. There we go. If you look, you'll notice there's like every version of Street Fighter 2. And see, that's counted as a different game. So really, I would say you're probably looking at somewhere probably around maybe 50,000 games, which is still a lot. That would be probably 40 to 50,000 would be a little bit more realistic. A good amount of stuff on here works. A good amount doesn't. It takes a lot of experimenting, changing the emulators, etc., to get certain things to run. A lot of stuff does work out of the box. It's pretty much plug and play. Everything's already in it. Its performance of it is, how can I put this? Performance on the lower end platforms is great. So arcade games, standard arcade games, Super Nintendo, Genesis, regular Nintendo, TurboGrafx, Neo Geo, 32X, performance is top notch on those. It's really good. Tons of games on here. The arcade section has over 2,500 games. Atari 2600, almost 2,700 games. Atari 800, almost 5,500 games. Like, it's just a ton of games, especially on the lower end platforms. The issue is with this device is when you get up to stuff like Atomis Wave, Dreamcast, like Atomis Wave is only 7 games. They don't all run full speed. So you got stuff like, you got games like Dolphin Blue, which doesn't run full speed. It runs close. It's certainly playable. I say it's probably running at about 80-85%. It has some audio issues, a little audio stutter. And you can kind of hear the audio, and I can notice differences real easy with these games because I have a lot of experience testing these games. But it runs okay. In a game like Dolphin Blue, a little slowdown isn't a deal breaker. But the audio overall isn't as clear as my PC builds that I offer. Yeah, overall, the game is running slower. But for a side-scrolling shooter like this with a ton of stuff on the screen, that ain't exactly the worst thing in the world. It's certainly playable. It's still a lot of fun. If I had no other option but to play this on this, I would certainly for doggone sure play it. So, all right, I'll back out of this. So that's what we're looking at as far as Atomis Wave is concerned. Something else I want to talk about too, I'll go a little bit more in depth about it at the end of the video. One thing I've noticed is the SD card, because the games are on an SD card. I think switching, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a high capacity, super fast SD Pro Samsung card and get this image and transfer it over to that. I think that will improve performance quite a bit in the menus for startup time, starting the games up, exiting the games, and just overall navigating the whole system. Because I can just tell this SD card is super slow. The access, the read, write speeds on this card is very slow, I can tell. So that may help. That's probably the fastest SD card you can get right now. So I want to get that in stock, and then I want to do some testing. But You know, that's pretty much the deal with the Thomas Wave. The Thomas Wave is playable. It's not too bad, I would say. It's definitely playable, but you only get 7 games. Dreamcast is pretty much kind of a disappointment. It's a freaking mess, to be honest. Thomas Wave is decent. A few of the games work good. Dead or Alive doesn't work good at all. Crazy Taxi 1 works good. Giga Wing 2 works good. Ikaruga works. It's close. I would say it's probably at about 85%. It runs pretty good. It'd be worth playing on here. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 runs decent. It has a little slowdown. First Marvel vs. Capcom is okay. Power Stone's a little slow. Actually, I would say Power Stone is pretty slow, to be honest. It's playable still, but it's nowhere near as smooth as on one of my PC builds. It's silky smooth on that. Also, Project Justice, interestingly enough, runs good. I don't have too much issue with Project Justice. I'm surprised it's actually, from my understanding, this was a little bit harder to emulate. It's interesting. It runs pretty good on this platform. Soul Calibur on here is a mess. It's just, I believe it's a bad ROM. The game runs smooth, but there's tons of artifacts and stuff. It's a mess. It's only 23 Dreamcast games too. So that kind of lies the issue with this device. The limitations of this device. It's limited on higher end platforms. Dreamcast, PSP, Naomi is very limited. The lower end platforms, Genesis, Mega Drive, MSX, are pretty good. And on top of that, Naomi only has 5 games. So, you know, it is what it is. Some of those work good, some of them don't. So, N64 is an interesting section. I'll say this, most of the games run, some of the harder stuff doesn't. Things like Killer Instinct have issues. Super Smash Bros. Works good. Overall, Cruising USA runs bad. Overall, it's a decent section. I'm gonna be making a follow-up video. This is just some quick early impressions of everything too. DS ran pretty good though. Tons of games of DS on here too. DS was pretty good. It's pretty light. It's a pretty light lift. Neo Geo works great. TurboGrafx, of course, runs good. This is very light to run. PSP is a mess. Most of the games don't run full speed. Some run good. Some of the lighter 2D games. Soul Calibur runs probably about 80%. It's decent, but nothing special. Overall, yeah, so they say you get 117 games. That's not really true. Like I mentioned earlier, you get about 40,000 games. 40, 50, somewhere in that realm, but it's definitely under 60. It does have a lot of content. My overall early thoughts is it has a lot of content. A lot of stuff does indeed work. For what it costs, I think it's a good buy for what it costs, street price wise. For what I could get it as a vendor, street price of this box is probably about $100, give or take. Sometimes it's on sale for less, sometimes you see it for more. For what I could get it for as a vendor though, would be a very good price, which kind of brings me to my other thoughts on this box. This would not be a necessarily bad option for a Ultra Stripper Dragon Slayer model. It integrates pretty well with the arcade. It's connected now. It works pretty well. What works, works. What doesn't, doesn't. If anything, kind of reminds me of the original arcade guys builds before I started running Retro Night stuff, where a lot of stuff worked and a lot of stuff didn't. It's similar to that, but it's just way more duplicates and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to make a follow-up video and show off more of the games in depth, because I wanted this to be more about what was offered on this system and my opinions. But I'll show the differences in performance with the games in the next video, spread this out a little bit, maybe make 2 or 3 videos about it. But yeah, I think this may be a possible option for a cheap Slayer. Very, very, very cheap, because this is a very affordable device. And I think moving it to a better SD card will help it overall. It's not going to fix all of the issues, and it's just a lot of bad busted stuff on here. So, but it'll definitely help the navigation of this emulation system for sure. But I think this will be a good option for a budget Dragon Slayer. So I think this might work well with that. Even cheaper than the cheapest model I got out. Now, I can see myself building a small unit like this. This is a 24-inch model. I could see something like this in the 750, 850 range, and maybe a full-size model in the 1,000, 1,100 range. So, you know, it's certainly a possibility. It works great with older games. And, you know, you can't really ask for much more than that for that price. It'd be just a phenomenal price for that. So anyway, I'd be interested in hearing what are your comments on a possible budget Slayer with this device. And what's your thoughts on this device as a whole? Anyway, 3X Lex out. I'll be back with a more comprehensive breakdown, in-depth breakdown of everything, and I'll get with you on the next one. Peace.